Okay, looks like we're in. Looks like we're all here. So more people have just joined us from the waiting room. And so first of all, let me thank you all for showing up. So grateful. I don't know how you got here. Maybe it was through one of the Instagram lives that Cindy and I did, or maybe it was through Breathe, or maybe it was through my Instagram. Who knows? But we're here. You're not here by accident. No one's here by accident. That's the beautiful thing. There are no meaningless coincidences. And so if you're new to Zoom, or if you're not like a Zoom aficionado, there are a couple of ways to watch this experience. So if you mouse up to the upper right-hand corner and there's a little box that says view, you can view us all. Just to, let me see if I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at like all of us there. It's so intense. It's so amazing. We have the option of just doing a webinar where it's like me, and then I'm talking into a blank void, and you're like sitting there making tea, walking the dog, or doing whatever. But Cindy and I figured let's do like a Zoom meeting so we can all see each other, we can all connect to this practice, and we can all, you know, reinforce that it's not just you in the void. So thank you for showing up. I also want to thank Breathe Yoga for creating this beautiful little sandbox that we all get to play in. And I want to thank Cindy Weiss, who's made all this possible. And so blessings and deep gratitude, Cindy. Cindy and I have actually launched a Breathe Yoga meditation teacher training where you don't have to know anything about yoga. And you don't have to do yoga or practice asana, physical asana, but we dive deep into meditation and the ancient teachings of yoga. And that kicks off in 3 weeks. So if you're thinking about that, reach out to Cindy and she'll explain all that's there. And we hope to have you. This will be our second, if we can make it actually, you know, flow through this process, journey where we've been virtual. And so, like, how exciting is that we all get to hang out for 7 weeks, and then our final week we hang out like this for 5 days, really connecting and going deeper. So if you're considering taking your practice to the next level, if you're considering becoming a teacher, if you just want to make your life better, well, let me share just a little bit about my story. So I started meditating when I was in college, Syracuse University. It was an experimental Asian studies course. There were 12 of us in the class. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we sat in a circle. Our Zen master stood in the corner, and we would meditate. And we were instructed to raise our hand when we had a thought. In his hand, he carried an 18-inch bamboo stick known as a keisaku. And when we raised our hands, he would come over and thwack us on the back. So I only lasted in that school of meditation for a couple of weeks. I found myself like lying to my Zen master. And when you're lying to your Zen master, it's really time to leave that practice and find another. And so over the years, I dabbled in all sorts of things. I left Zen meditation, went into candle gazing, left that, moved into Vipassana, left that, moved into Tantra, left that, moved into mantra, left that, moved into chocolate tasting meditation, which really had me there for a while. And I still like to do that, such a powerful meditation. And then as I got more deeply involved in the corporate world, my meditation practice slipped away. And I realized that I had traded in my beautiful morning practice for an early morning train ride to the World Trade Center. I had traded in my evening practice for a glass of scotch. And like that, meditation was gone from my life. I think it's a pretty common thing that we're like doing something and then suddenly it's just not there anymore. Well, interestingly enough, I realized as I got deeper and deeper into the corporate world and deeper away from meditation, also what was gone from my life was balance. And I was feeling empty. I was feeling purposeless. I was feeling unfulfilled. So many things that were just empty and dark inside of me. And in the wake of 9/11, as I was walking past a row of cardboard boxes that people were living in southern Manhattan, I walked past this particular box. A hand reached out, grabbed my leg, pulled me in, and this face with these blue crystalline eyes gazed up at me and said, "What's going to be on your tombstone?" It's a fairly reflective moment. And we had sort of like this very, very intense conversation. I call these like butterfly moments, and maybe you've had them as well, where suddenly everything around me vanished. The noise of New York City vanished, the people vanished, the street vanished, and it was only me and this divine being having this nonverbal interaction, which seemed like it was hours. It was probably a couple of minutes. But when it was over, I stepped away. My legs were weak. Tears were streaming down my face. I had a lump in my throat. My heart was racing, and I had to like walk over to this apartment building and sit down on the front steps and just try to compose myself and catch my breath. And then I went home that night and I shared this conversation with my wife, and she was like, "Dude, you need to quit your job." There's this guy, Deepak Chopra. He's hosting this meditation retreat in Oxford, England. And I'd never heard of Deepak Chopra, and I'd never been to Oxford. And so I did. I left my job. There were supposed to be 3,000 people at this thing. There were 50 of us because no one was flying right after 9/11. And every day we were meditating for like 8 hours a day. And by the third day, I had reconnected to my practice. And for the first time in like 20 years, I felt joy. It had actually been an emotion that had left me, and I wasn't even aware that it was gone. It was like my heart had been this white linen cloth that had been submerged in black India ink, so dark, so painful. And it was like each day of meditating was like draping that cloth through a rushing stream that was cleansing it and lightening it. And suddenly that emptiness that I had been feeling was replaced by a lightness of being, by joy. And I was like, wow, I'm back. I am so back. This is so amazing. So of course, my next step was to head off to India in search of the guru. And so left the UK, headed over to India, got a 6-month visa, and I traveled high and low in search of the guru. I went up into the Himalayas to visit His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. He wasn't there that day. So left there, traveled around, bathed in the Ganges, practiced meditation, woke up every morning, did yoga, talked to all these people, just wandering around, wandering in search of the guru. And then about 5.5 months into this journey, as I was laying in a hammock in a cashew forest in southern India, way down in Kerala, and I was reading the Bhagavad Gita, this ancient Indian text, which I had been reading every single day, over and over and over. But suddenly I read chapter 2, verse 48, where Arjuna, who's the protagonist, the star of the show, says to God, "How am I supposed to live my life?" And God, in the form of Krishna, replies to him, "Yogastha kuru karmani." Yogastha kuru karmani. And like, poof, it was like a lightning bolt that hit me. Yogastha, establish yourself in the present moment. Kuru karmani, then perform action. And suddenly it was all clear. Everything made sense to me. That's how I want to walk through the world. I want to get still, reflect, calm down, and then respond to the world around me. So I was so excited, raced home. Actually, there's no racing home from Kerala. So I raced to the bus stop. 20 hours later, a bus came. Then 40 hours later, got to Mumbai airport. Then waited there for another 22 hours, and then took a 20-hour flight. So racing was an exercise in patience as well. But I got home, and after I was home for several weeks, a friend of mine said, all you do is sit around and meditate. I said, I know, isn't it amazing? And he said, well, maybe you should try to, teach other people to meditate. And I was like, hey, I'm from New York. I don't care about anyone else's meditation. Um, and so he said, yeah, but if you really want to learn something, learn from the inside out. If you really want to learn something, learn to teach it. And I was like, yeah, but I don't have to teach anyone, right? He's like, no. You just have to like learn it and then weave it into your life. So I was like, yeah, that's it. I'll do it. He said, hey, your friend Deepak, he has a center in Southern California, Carlsbad. And maybe you could get certified as a teacher there. So I was like, I'm in. So I'm fairly obedient, as you could tell. Packed my bags, headed out to California, went to this workshop. Again, there was supposed to be 500 people there. There were 30. And in that workshop, on day 2 of the workshop, which was July 14th, Bastille Day, Deepak and his partner, David Simon, approached me and said, hey, what do you do? And I said, I turn companies around. Haven't really done it in a while though, but that's what I do. And they were like, oh, we used to have so many people here and we don't have a lot of people here since 9/11. I was like, I could help that. And they said, would you become the COO of the Chopra Center? And I was like, done. In that moment, talk about like saying yes to every opportunity. I was like, done. I said, here's how it'll work. I'll go back to New York. I'll live my life there. I'll call you up every week, give you your marching orders. You'll feed back to me over the course of the week. You'll tell me how you're doing and if the stuff worked, and that'll be the relationship. And they said, nah, you really need to be here and breathe the air. I said, okay. So I began as the chief operating officer. And then I became the lead educator, because once I got certified, I was teaching meditation every single day. And at a certain point, I was like, oh my God, I love teaching meditation. I love sharing with people how they can stop freaking out, how they can lessen anxiety, how they can be the calm amidst the chaos, how they can sleep better at night, how they can have better relationships, how they can boost their immune system, like all that stuff. Loved it. And so I traveled the world for apprenticing under them for about 10 years. And then I became the dean of Chopra Center University. And I got to certify and train about 2,000 meditation teachers over that period of time. And in 2012, David Simon left this earth plane, and I left the Chopra Center to take these teachings everywhere in the world, hospitals, schools, working with Breathe. I wrote a couple of books. I've recorded over 1,000 guided meditations, and I am meditation. I'm a meditation nerd. I'm a meditation geek. I love to teach it. I love to share it. I can't stop sharing it. So for me, who was like, no, I don't really care about anyone's meditation. And now I live my life hoping that everyone can just tap into this stillness and silence just for a little bit and then have that aha moment. They're like, oh, yeah, this is a beautiful practice. This is really a practice that's changing my life every single day. So I want to share that with you, because in all my searching for the guru, I realized the guru rests inside. In fact, the answer to every single question you could ever ask yourself rests inside. You just have to quiet the fluctuations of your mind enough so you could hear the whispers of your heart, so you could hear the whispers of God. And meditation can be perceived as something a little kooky, little, cooped out. We've all been trained as high achievers that realistically, people who are sitting with their eyes closed doing nothing are doing nothing. Those are not the people that we look up to like, whoa, you're crushing it. Yes, you're the mover and shaker. You're the change agent. No, you're just like sitting there with your eyes closed. We would never look at a person sitting on a bench with their eyes closed and say, oh my God, they're brilliant. It's the next leader. We would look at them and go, either they're sleeping, or like, who knows, but they're probably lazy. But we need this special juice that we can tap into. And so hopefully what we'll do over this course of these couple of hours is I'll talk about meditation. I'll share a bunch of different techniques. I'll answer your questions. We'll dive, pretty deep into this process. Before we start, any questions? Don't be shy. Feel free to type them in if you have no questions, and you can ask them at any time. So we have, looks like we have a little over 100 people here. So it's a fairly intimate group. And let's explore this concept of stress. So first I'll ask, how many of you have never meditated before in your life? And I'm scanning and no one's got their hand up. Everyone here is a meditator of some sort. And how many of you are like locked in, rock star meditators, do it every day, doing it for a bunch of years, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon, never missed a day? Anyone in there? And how many of you are crisis meditators? What's a crisis meditator? You like it, you've done it, it's cool, don't really meditate or not really steadily, but then a crisis hits and you're like, you find your bliss or search for your bliss. That's like 85% of the planet. 85% of the planet are crisis meditators. So hopefully I can move you a little further along in that spectrum from crisis meditator to rock star meditator. We do have a couple of comments and questions here. Let's see, Modic's been meditating for 1 year, 10 minutes a day, but do not notice a difference. Do I need to do it for longer? We'll talk about that. Yeah, you do. And she meditates daily. So yeah, we'll talk just a little bit about that. Susie says, my 11-year-old watched the Instagram live on Friday and was hooked. She thinks you're so funny and amazing. You ever do trainings for teens and tweens? Well, we've had, in our teacher training, we've had people as young as 16. So yes, in answer to that. Beth meditates daily, but mostly crisis. Most people do. Annie meditates once a day, but sometimes find it hard to get deep. Cool. Once a day, Natasha, using Insight Timer. Diana, I meditate variably, not crisis, but not rock star. You're like the Goldilocks meditator, just right in there. Yes, here's a really important thing. Donna says meditated on and off for decades, trained in Chopra's binaural sound meditation. Not sure why I started and stopped. We'll dive into that. We'll explore that. Julie says daily, but now that the world is opening up, I'm worried my practice will slip as I get busier. Yes, that's what happens. That's how we become crisis meditators. We're cruising along, we're meditating every day, we're feeling pretty good, and then COVID or something, or someone comes over to your house, or suddenly you're like, I can go outside now, or the list goes on and on and on, but suddenly we get distracted, and then 3 days later we realize, oh, stop that meditation thing. I did it too. I fell on and off and on and off and on and off. And I'll share with you a secret of how to lock that in, because willpower isn't going to do it. Willpower works for yoga. Willpower works for the gym. It doesn't work for meditation. You sort of have to ritualize it. You have to really carve it into your routine, because again, we've been trained. We came out of the womb and the doctor whispered in our ear, okay, here's how it works. Focus and effort. Okay, that's a secret to everything. Focus and effort. So we've lived our lives, focus and effort. Oh, it's not working? Focus harder. Still not working? Little more effort. Still not working? More focus, more effort. That's how we fry. That's how we burn out. That's how we get crispy. Meditation's the opposite of that. Everything is like no focus, no effort. And we're like, no, that hurts. It's like when I'm teaching members of the military and I slip and say, okay, now surrender. And they're like, no, we've been trained. No surrendering. I'm like, okay, wrong word. How about relax a little bit? So that's really, that's one of the keys. That's like one of the most important aspects that we need to remember. Languaging is everything. And we all want to be doing this thing, but so now when I teach members of the military and cops, I call it awareness training. And they're like, yeah, we can handle that. We want to be aware, not surrender, but we want to be aware. And so just so you know, I've worked with the Marines up in Camp Pendleton. It's about 19 miles this way. I've worked with law enforcement. In a few months, I'm going to be working with Metro DC cops. So these are the cops who defended the Capitol on January 5th. Suddenly we start to realize that there's all these people in our world who are living such extremely stressed out lives. And how do we get them to be better? How do we get them to be more present? Teach them to meditate. We teach them to be much more conscious and valuable members of our society. And what does meditation do? It cultivates your ability to witness. And if you're witnessing, you can make better choices. And so not just cops and military, how about us? Don't you want to make better choices? Anybody here say something you wish you could take back in the last couple of days, weeks, months? Only Beth. Oh, and Nicole. Okay. I think, something perhaps has slipped out of all of our mouths. Like as it's coming out, we're like, no, please come back. Anyone here do anything or make a decision that after the fact, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Only Donna and Andrea. Okay. So we start to realize that, it's universal. We're all making choices sometimes out of fear or desperation, or we're making them on autopilot or from a conditioned place. And so meditation can help you be just a little more reflective and less reflexive. Meditation can help you be just a little more intentional, purposeful, instead of knee-jerk. And so imagine if we have this special toolkit, in our back pocket or wrapped around our waist that we can in any moment pull out an in the moment stress hack and have our morning meditation and our afternoon meditation. It's about consistency, not duration, which is a major rookie mistake. That's why a lot of high achievers, they're like, start off like, okay, I'm going to meditate every morning for an hour. And they do that for like 3 mornings. And then they're like, it's too much. I have stuff to do. I'm cleaning the house. I'm doing the laundry. I'm making meals. I'm taking care of people. I'm going to work. I'm doing all this other stuff. I'm watching TV. There's some great stuff on TV. Just a disclaimer here. I'm a professional when it comes to TV watching. I try to get at least 4 hours a day. And this is the final season of the Kardashians. So, and every single weekend, there are these marathons of Love It or List It. Like, how do you not watch that constantly? So at least I need to watch that stuff. So you can watch TV, you can have your other sins, whatever they are, minor sins, and you can still have a meditation practice. And so I want to share with you some of those aspects as well. So what's my definition of stress? Stress is how you respond when your needs are not met. It's just that simple. How you respond when your needs are not met. How many times over the course of the day are our needs not met? 15, 20, 25. Now the technology is such a big deal. We're like, oh my God, do I have a Wi-Fi signal? Have I maxed out my cell? Oh my God, I can't connect to that person. We can just keep going on and on and on and on with various needs not being met. So let me just walk you through a couple of these basic needs, just so you become aware of these. So in 1942 to 1949, Abraham Maslow created this template or this paradigm known as, now it's known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And he said that we have these 5 levels of needs. that we are constantly trying to meet, even if there's no reward at the end. Other stuff we do because there's a payoff. But these sets of needs, they're so core, they're so innate that we're not actually looking for a payoff. And the 5 sets of needs are, first, our physiological, biological. Then up from that, our needs of safety and security. Then up from that, our needs of love and belongingness. Then up from that, our social needs, esteem. And then up from that is our self-actualization. So we actually have the need to self-actualize in this life. You know, and what's self-actualization? Becoming your best version. Our full potential, it's morality, it's our creativity, it's our peak experiences, it's appreciation of art and music. It's us just leveling up. But you can't level up if these other needs are not being met. So Maslow said, that the lower needs, if we can work on meeting them, then we can move up and meet the needs a little bit higher and a little bit higher and a little bit higher. So that first level of physiological, biological needs. It's air, you need to breathe, water, we need to quench our thirst, food, we need to fuel our bodies, shelter, sleep. If these needs are not being met or they're being constricted, Maslow referred to these as deficiency needs, right? If you're dying of thirst or you have to pee or poop really bad, and someone's like, hey, could you sit down and read this poem? And you're like, I have to pee. I can't be thinking about reading poetry right now. If you're in a car and it says rest stop 20 miles, and you're like, oh my God, I have to wait 20 miles before we stop. And then someone pops on the radio and says, oh my God, this is our favorite song. And everyone in the car is like rocking out to that song. You're not rocking out to that song. You're counting the mile markers till you get to the rest stop. We can't move to that higher level of need unless we're begun to work on those lower level needs. So even us having awareness, okay, the rest stop's in a mile. Now I could probably start paying attention to anything above that. The next level of needs, once we're working on it, Maslow said you don't need to complete it fully. You just have to be working on it, and then you can move to the next level. That's safety and security. Now, we've just had this giant lack of safety thrown on top of us for an entire year. We weren't expecting it, and here it is. So our needs of safety and security logically have not been met, or we've at least struggled with them a lot. Because up until the vaccines, you couldn't even solve that in any way. You pretty much had to like risk it. All right, I'll just go out there, risk my life to get an avocado, and risk my life to squeeze into a yoga studio, risk my life to walk down the street with my dog. And so suddenly there's like all this challenge, this challenging of our needs of safety and security. This is our stability in life. We need to know we could leave our house and it won't be robbed. We need to know that we could go to work and not be shot. We need to know that we could park our car and it wouldn't get broken into. We need to know that the person walking towards me as I'm walking down the street is sort of kind of playing by the same rules as me, and they're not going to do any harm to me in any way. So once that level is being worked on, so we're experiencing it right now. So the vaccine is becoming a lot more prevalent. They talk about herd immunity and vaccine rollouts, and people are it's spring. We're sort of like popping outside like tulips and and daffodils. We're like checking it out. Suddenly it's like this whole rebirthing that we're doing because we feel just a little bit safer to have an encounter, a little bit safer to venture outside of our living room. And if that need is being worked on, then we can move up to that level of love and belongingness. Imagine, if you don't feel safe in a relationship, you can't be in a state of love and belongingness. I just watched that Tina Turner documentary on HBO Max. Check it out. Brilliant, amazing. And she's a Buddhist, practicing Buddhist, oh, by the way. So when we start to, talk about like love and belongingness, there's certain, again, aspects that are included in love and belongingness. This is our friendship. This is our camaraderie. This is our connection. And it's also our attention. We need to be seen. We need to be paid attention to. It's a form of validation. That's our belongingness. That's our love. We want people to look at us, not at their devices while they're talking to us, right? We want people to connect with us and just, okay, I see you, I see you, I see you. Think about that concept of our invisibility, our disconnection. So we need attention. A little kinder on the spectrum is affection. We all need affection. We don't just want to be looked at. We don't just want to be seen. We want to be looked at and seen kindly, with a smile, with a wink, with a hug, with a kiss, with a cuddle, with a pat on the back. We all want that affection. We're craving affection. And then we all want to feel accepted. We all want to be part of something that's bigger than us. That could be your religion, that could be your sports team, that could be your music group, that could be your town, that could be your group of people. Think for a moment, like, what's the thing that I want to be accepted as a part of? Even like as meditators, I want to be one of them. We have this with our belief systems. Think of all those different belief systems that we have where I'm part of this. I love that song and that person. I was just watching someone on TV, yes, Sunday morning CBS, and they were, just talking about the musical Hamilton. So it wasn't just like, oh, did you see Hamilton? It's like, when did you see it? Did you see it at the, when they were still in rehearsals? Did you see it in the first weeks? Did you see it when they went on the road? Did you see it on TV? And the guy who played Hamilton was saying, depending on how early in the process you saw it, that's probably, you also paid a lot less as it was earlier and earlier in the process. But people were like, of course I've seen it 5 times. Only 5? How about I saw it 7? And so there's even this acceptance thing with stuff in the social world that we want to be a part of. And during the summer, as the streets were talking, as the streets were screaming, we wanted to be a part of that. It was important to us to be a part of that voice, the collective voice. And so love and belongingness, so critical, so important in our life. But if our physiological, biological needs and our needs of safety and security aren't being fulfilled, or at least being worked on, we can't experience love in our life. We can't experience belongingness. We struggle even with that belongingness. A little higher up, that's esteem. So think of what that's all about. Status, respect, acknowledgement, recognition, prestige, dignity. It's pretty important. We want to feel all these things. If 2 warring factions, whomever they may be, aren't giving the other one dignity, no peace will occur. And we look around the world to, where is there not peace? It's because whoever the oppressor is in the moment is not giving dignity to the oppressed. And you can't get to peace without dignity. So they're stuck. They're stuck at that level. So this is really, we would call this appreciation. We all need to feel appreciated. I even saw a study that 3/4 of people who work would rather have public acknowledgement than a raise. That's how unseen people working in our current workforce are. 75%. If you could just throw some light on me, just a little appreciation here, be okay. And then the next level up, self-actualization. Those needs between love and belongingness and esteem contain what I refer to as the 4 needs of the heart: attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. And when these are not met, stress, Now, we mostly think of stress as a result of some kind of physiological or biological thing, right? We're all familiar with the concept of fight flight. It's this self-preservation mechanism that's been woven into our physiology for more than 10,000 years. Every being on the planet has that protection mechanism, that when we sense a threat to the physiology, to our body, we respond in under 5 seconds to either fight the threat or escape from it, run away from it. That's what they call it, fight flight. So here's how it works. 10,000 years ago, you're walking through the jungle and you suddenly hear, which obviously is the sound of the saber-toothed tiger, which cannot be disputed. And so just upon hearing that, in under 5 seconds, your autonomic nervous system jumps into gear. The first thing, it starts to make you perspire instantly. That's the first thing that happens the second you feel a threat, sense a threat to the physiology. We start to sweat. It's not to make us more slippery so we can escape the grasp of the saber-toothed tiger. It's because our mind, body, or autonomic nervous system knows, you know what, if you fight this thing or run away, you're definitely going to overheat. And the only way we know how to cool our bodies down is by sweating first. So instantly, upon sensing the threat, we've all experienced it, right? You're driving in your car and somebody cuts you off. What's the first thing that happens? Suddenly you're dripping sweat. You didn't do it consciously. That wasn't an intellectual thing. We said, I think I'll start perspiring now. Suddenly that car just gets too close or whatever, and poof, it's the autonomic nervous system kicking in under half a second. The next thing that happens is you start to breathe more rapidly and more shallowly, because the autonomic nervous system says we need to get the blood flowing in the body. How do we do that fastest? Quick, rapid, shallow breaths. So the blood starts pumping inside of our body more quickly. This is about the 1 second mark. Your heart starts beating faster. And then this really cooked out weird thing starts happening. The autonomic nervous system says, let's shut down everything that's not essential to saving your life here. Everything. Suppress it, shut it down. So your growth hormone, your sex hormone, your immune system, all get suppressed. Your autonomic nervous system saying, really? You need to be fighting germs right now? You'll probably be dead in 2 seconds. We don't need to be fighting germs. We don't need to be thinking about lustrous hair and hard nails for cellular development. Shut it all down. And once all the non-essential functions, non-essential for survival, are shut down, then the mind body says, all right, now let's kick in adrenaline, cortisol, glucagon. Glucagon's like, it's like eating 5 Snickers bars at once, just gushing into us. And now we're ready. But wait, one more thing. Autonomic nervous system at the 4 second mark says, you know, if you're going to fight or run away, you could get caught. So you actually begin clotting before you get caught. Your entire blood system, the platelets, the hard parts of your blood that flow through the plasma become plump and sticky. And now you're ready. Now you're ready to fight or run away. This was all under 5 seconds. Not a lot of saber-toothed tigers out here in Rochester. Not a lot of saber-toothed tigers out here in the sweet spot of the universe. So over those 10,000 years, we have evolved fight, flight, because our lives are not in mortal danger on a constant basis. If you're a first responder, if you live in a war zone, if you're a front line, yes, your life is in constant danger. But for most of us, it's not. So we have evolved to turn that into emotional fight flight. So it's not when we sense a threat to the physiology, it's when we sense a threat to the ego. And what's the ego? Definition of the ego is your sense of self. It's just that simple. Your basic sense of self. Your I, me, mine. All the stuff in life you think you own. Think of all the things you think you own. Own my outfit, own my house, Probably the bank owns it. Own my car, probably bank owns it. Own my apartment, landlord owns it. Suddenly we start to realize, oh, it's not a lot I actually do own. Think I own my kids? Laughable. Um, like, what do we really own? We even think we own the lane that we're driving in. We think we own the 20 feet in front of our car, the 20 feet behind our car, and someone crosses my lane, and suddenly we get like defensive. We actually get launched into emotional fight flight, which is also referred to as the ego response. So imagine, these are all the needs that I've shared with you. Anytime one of these needs is not being met, anytime anything we think we own, ever work on a project really hard and then submit it to your boss or to a committee or to a colleague, and they go, really? You thought this was going to work? Did you do this in like 5 minutes? And like you might have spent like 5 weeks on it. You ever get really, really dressed up, ready to go out, and the person you're going out with says, you gonna wear that? Has ever happened to anybody? Think of all these different things we think we own that when they're challenged, especially over the last couple of years, we've really seen our belief systems challenged. Especially if you watch TV like I do. Spend way too much time watching CNN and MSNBC. Very, those are like stress inducing. It's like, not enough stress in my life. I think I'll turn on Rachel Maddow for 15 minutes. So things like that are, as we walk through the world, and I would suggest to you, definitely turn off all your social media notifications. No one ever needs to get like the notification that says, hey, one more horrible thing has happened, check it out. Like, we don't actually need those. So that's like one thing to just aid your stress. So we're walking through the world 15, 20, 25 times a day. Our needs are not being met in small and giant ways. And how we're responding to that becomes the fabric of our life. I know it can sound really, really depressing, horrible, but there's an antidote to stress, and it's meditation. It's connecting to the stillness and silence that rests within. Now, this is not just some woo-woo, cooped out, stoner, surfer, kind of whatever. I'm not a stoner or a surfer. I just live in California. I just never cut my hair after 9/11. So that's why I look the way I look. But think about this. If we have a tool that we can introduce into our lives anytime we're about to feel stress or are feeling stress, and we have another tool, our meditation practice, that we can proactively use to start our day and end our day, we can walk through the world with fewer things stressing us out, with fewer things not meeting our needs. Because when we meditate, it's not the biological stress response of fight, flight, or the reactive response, or the ego response. When we meditate, it's the biological stress response known as restful awareness or restful alertness. Guess what happens to us chemically when we meditate? So we don't perspire. Our perspiration threshold actually goes up and we get cooler. Eliminates the need to lean into the frozen food section in a supermarket in case you're feeling a little warm. The second thing that happens is we don't breathe rapidly and shallowly. We breathe slower, deeper, and longer. Our heart doesn't beat faster, it beats slower. Our blood pressure goes down. Our sex hormone elevates. Our growth hormone elevates. Cellular development happens at a higher and more nourishing level. And our immune system is elevated. This is what I've been saying for the last year. I'm in California. They got pretty tight rules here. They sort of kind of shut every non-essential business down. And so I sent an email to the governor. I said, hey, I'm a meditation teacher. It's the most essential job right now on the planet. We're the only job that actually helps people elevate their immune systems. That's what we need right now. I didn't get a response, but our gun stores are still open here and our strip clubs are still open here. But No meditation studios. So, priorities clearly are not in the appropriate place. But it's I think it's one of the most essential things that we can do is elevate our immune system. Teach people to elevate their immune system. Like, what's the number one tool in fighting COVID? Having a strong immune system, whether you have the vaccine or not. So imagine we have that ability in here. And this is what happens to our body. So it's not just that these nourishing aspects, hormones and chemicals get elevated when we meditate, but adrenaline, cortisol, and glucagon all get suppressed when we meditate. Oh, and those platelets that were plump and sticky when we were sensing a threat? They become more fluid and our blood flows more easily. Because realistically, how many times do you think you can shut down your immune system over the course of your life before you're diagnosed with some type of immunodeficiency? How many times do you think you can shut down your sex hormones before you've been diagnosed with some type of reproductive challenge? How many times do you think you can make your blood plump and sticky before you're diagnosed with some type of cardiac issue? And how many times do you think you can have glucagon, 5 Snickers bars, surging into your bloodstream before you're diagnosed with some kind of sugar issue? So meditation is not just the antidote to stress, it's really the pathway, the doorway to a beautiful lifestyle where we're always leveling up on the physiological level, leveling up on the emotional level. Pretty amazing, right? So let me just share. We'll start off. I'll share. Why don't we do this first? Why don't we all just comfort is queen? One of the most important things that I teach, and you may have heard, no, rigid spine, hand mudras, full lotus, like whatever. I consider those all advanced techniques. You want to, like, Amanda looks like she's totally chill, laying out there, right? Comfort is queen. Always keep moving towards comfort. Why? Because if you're always comfortable when you meditate, you'll keep showing up. If you have to get into some kind of position or like, oh, my back hurts, and if there are excuses to be found, you'll find them. So always keep moving towards comfort. Always keep moving towards comfort. So let's close our eyes and together take a long, slow, deep breath in. And if you're uncomfortable closing your eyes, just soften your gaze a little bit. Long, slow, deep breath in. Feel it come in and feel it flow back out. Let's do that one more time. Long, slow, deep breath in. And gently release it. And now just watch your breath. Just witness it. Don't force your breath. Don't try to breathe a certain way. Just allow the universe to breathe you and witness it. Just notice how your body is so naturally breathing you. Your heart beats without your influence. You breathe without your influence. Just notice it. Just watch it. Just witness it. Notice how as you breathe in, your chest rises a little bit. Notice as you exhale, your chest or your belly eases. And just allow the breath. Just receive the breath. And just let it flow back out of you. There's nowhere else to be. There's nothing else to do except to be right here, right now, in this sacred, precious, present moment. So just keep following your breath. Just keep observing it. And notice that between the inhale and the exhale, there's just a little space. Teeniest of spaces. just like a sliver. It's just a millimeter. Just become aware of that space between your inhale and your exhale. That space is who you are. That space is your still point. And the next time you breathe, don't do anything special. You don't have to breathe deeply or any other way. But the next time, notice that pause at the end of your inhale and see if you can just lengthen it just a beat, just a beat. And now see if you can just lengthen it, maybe an extra beat. And so we're just lengthening that pause and breathing normally and just noticing the ease with which we can lengthen that pause between the in and the out. And let's ask ourselves just one question. What am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? And just allow all the people, all the situations, all the circumstances, all the silver linings, all the lemonade you've made out of lemons, just allow them to unfold in your mind's eye. And if you drift away to thoughts or sounds or physical sensations, that's okay. When you realize you've left your gratitude list ever so gently, just drift back to your gratitude list. And now invite an intention into your awareness. An intention can be a state of mind, a state of being, a trait, a quality, a characteristic that you'd like to amplify. An intention can also be a real world action step. that you can take that will bring you just a little bit closer to the fulfillment of your dreams and desires. A state or a step, just invite it into your awareness. Maybe it's an intention just for today, maybe this week. Allow that intention to crystallize. And when you're clear on it now, invite it into your heart. Invite that intention into your sweet, tender heart. And feel free to place your fingertips or your palm or your hands on your heart so you can feel that intention be planted like a seed in the fertile soil of your heart. It takes about a minute for all the blood in your heart to leave your heart, flow through your entire body, and then return to the heart. So that intention that you planted has bathed your brain, washed all your organs. It's rippled through every cell in your body. And right about now, it's coming down the home stretch. And that intention is now infused into every single fiber of your being. So take a long, slow, deep breath in and release it. We've planted the seed. We don't need to hold on to the outcome. We've connected to that. And just stay in this space and witness your breath. That's how we nourish the seed. Every time we connect to stillness and silence, we nourish our intentions. It's actually an ancient Sanskrit term for that, sankalpa, subtle intention, running in the background. Just keep observing your breath. Notice it as it comes in. Maybe you notice it in your nose, back of your throat, top of your lungs, middle of your body, or down in your belly. Maybe you notice how you exhale and how that release feels to you. And now take a long, slow, deep breath in. And ever so gently let that go. Let's do it again. Long, slow, deep breath in. And gently release. And when it feels comfortable, you can ever so gently wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your belly button. And feel free to open your eyes. Oh, hello. Welcome back. So, pretty painless, pretty effortless. So let me share just a little bit more before I start answering some of your questions, and feel free to post any questions in the chat. Everyone's feeling okay? Everyone think they could probably do that at least a couple of times a day? You know, that whole experience was about 7 minutes. You could probably do that at some point. I had mentioned before that languaging is so important because everyone speaks a different language. Everyone has a certain access point. And so when I first started teaching Marines who had come home from too many tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan, the first technique I taught them was a technique that I figured we won't call it meditation. We'll really just try to get them to close their eyes and breathe. How about that? How about that concept? None of us breathe enough. None of us. Nobody here, nobody on the planet. 7.6 billion people, nobody breathes enough. Even if you're a breatharian, you're not breathing enough. No one's breathing enough. So the technique that I shared with them, and I'd like to share this with you so you could share it with other people as well, and maybe you could start practicing it as well. It's not going to take 7 minutes of your time. That would be way too much of a commitment. But this is like a real sweet starting point. And everyone here, most everybody here, was actually in that zone. Everybody here was sort of like in that present moment, beautiful space. So think about something right now that's been bothering you. Think about something that's been just disturbing or irritating you over the last couple of days. Don't go too deep. This is not therapy. Someone said they were going to do something, they didn't. Something was supposed to happen, it didn't. The timing's not working out. Someone's not acting up to your standards. You're starting to get irritated. Get clear on that. You can probably even see the person's face in front of you if it's a person involved with this. And now close your eyes. And through your nose, take a long, slow, deep breath in and watch that breath. And when it gets down to your belly, hold it there and continue to watch it. Continue to observe it. Keep holding it. Continue to witness it. And now let that breath go and watch it as it moves up your chest, through your throat, out through your nose or mouth. Keep watching it. Keep exhaling. Keep observing it. Allow that breath to dissipate into the ether now. Breathe normally. Feel free to open your eyes. That was 16 seconds. A mere 16 seconds. And in those 16 seconds, if you were playing along, and I really notice everybody here's playing along. This is great. Thank you for showing up. So in those 16 seconds, you are not in the past. You are not in the future. In those 16 seconds, anyone who played along was not thinking about that thing that I just asked you to think about. And I didn't tell you to stop thinking about it. I just said close your eyes and watch your breath. And so now you realize a couple of things. Number one, you can shift your attention from any thought that's unpleasant to the present moment. Because in the present moment, there is no fear. In the present moment, there is no irritation. All that stuff is based on past laden grievances, irritations, and disappointments. But in the present moment, we are fully whole and perfect. And we weren't in the future, weren't planning stuff, weren't doing stuff. But the beauty of this is that I never asked you or guided you to stop thinking about that thing. Simply by you closing your eyes and having your attention on this object of your attention, your breath, in 4, hold 4, out 4, hold 4. This is different than box breathing. This is different than square breathing, because this technique requires that you have your attention on the breath the whole time. And that's what you did. You weren't just breathing, which is helpful, which is beautiful, which is nourishing. It's great, but you had your attention there as well. And for 16 seconds, you were in this perfect space where there were no grievances, there were no irritations, there were no disappointments. We call that a pattern interrupt, a break in the action, a time in. It's not a time out. When we meditate, we don't disconnect from the world. There's a time in. We go inside. We get closer and closer and closer to source, closer to our true nature. So this concept of pattern interrupt, a break in the action, and this concept of the object of your attention, these are the two keys to meditation. We just need an object of our attention, any object. It could be something that we look at. It could be something that we repeat, like a mantra. It could be something that we watch, like our breath or a body part. So all meditations are based on an object of your attention. And we just introduced a pattern interrupt. In that pattern interrupt, and you may say, well, it was only 16 seconds. How profound could it be? I'll talk about that in a little bit, and you'll realize, oh, this is like the coolest and most nourishing thing I could ever do to my body. If you do it 4 times, it's a minute. If you do it 20 times, it's 5 minutes. That could be the foundation of your entire meditation practice. Again, here's what we did. We essentially sparked this concept of restful awareness. So far, just in this short period of time, we've connected to the stillness and silence that rests within. We've practiced gratitude. We've set an intention. We've understood the value and the purpose of a pattern interrupt. And we've gotten a few different objects of our attention. Hannah says, how do you begin to make meditation a habit? We'll get there. Just hang on. Just hang on. And Cindy, I was gonna text you earlier this morning. One person who's already enrolled in our Breathe Yoga meditation teacher training is here. She said, I want to, before the whole thing starts, I want to get a little, appetizer course before that. So doesn't matter how advanced or whatever your path is, you can do that. Stephanie says, how do we stop negative self-talk or catastrophizing things? We'll get there. I know, don't you hate that when it's like, it's coming? But meditation helps cultivate your patience. As Lao Tzu said 5,000 years ago, do you have the patience to wait until your mud settles and the water is clear? The second part to that quote, can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? So that doesn't mean don't do anything. Doesn't mean go in a cave and meditate, waiting for Godot. It means realistically, can I keep preparing for that moment when the timing is perfect, when the timing is right? So yeah, this allows us, going back to the Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Kuru Karmani. Here's another great Sanskrit line. Patanjali in the second Yoga Sutra says, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Let me type that in, since suddenly now it's getting a little more expansive. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Everyone can see that in the chat. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga, oneness, is the progressive quieting of the fluctuations of the mind. Our best version, our most authentic self is that state when the fluctuations of the mind have progressively eased. And this is really important because one of the biggest questions people ask all the time is, I've been meditating and I don't get it. I still have thoughts. Still have all these thoughts here. How do I stop that? Hopefully you never stop that. We have 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. That's one thought every 1.2 seconds. They're coming. You will not stop them. This doesn't stop them. They're coming. We're not trying to stop them. Just like you didn't stop your thoughts when we just practiced 16 seconds. You just drifted your attention to an object of your attention, and the thoughts that were so prominent, your irritation thoughts, still there, but our attention wasn't on them. So it's always about where's your attention, not the thoughts. And if we're alive, we have thoughts. And if we're not alive, we don't have thoughts. So the next time you're in meditation and you're like, ugh, the thoughts, say to yourself, thoughts, alive. No thoughts, flatlining. So we want to celebrate. It's like, yeah, I'm having thoughts. How cool is that? Now I think I'll gently drift back to the object of my attention, which is so important. So again, this beautiful yoga chitta vritti nirodha, oneness, our most authentic selves, is the progressive quieting, not stopping, quieting, softening of the fluctuations of the mind. People who meditate on a consistent basis say, and I would like to say as well, that the world comes to me a little bit slower. So it's not hitting me in the head with a 2x4. There's just a slow process. Doesn't make me a slacker. Gives me just an extra beat to respond. 1.2. One thought every 1.2 seconds. Imagine that. So we will never stop them. We don't want to stop them. We don't even want to put our attention on that. We don't even want to go there. Make sense? Denise says, Linda says, life becomes response rather than react. Yeah. So the next time you're having a thought, go like, how cool is it? How cool is this? I'm having a thought. Think I'll drift back to the object of my attention. All right. So now we're going to dive in. Everyone's okay? Everyone's still awake? Okay. So we're going to dive into a little bit of science. Not to, I'll try to make it as interesting as possible, but I think it's important that we sort of like recognize this stuff is scientifically validated now. Wasn't always. It was people had to have faith. Oh, I guess this thing is good for me. But now we know there's so many amazing scientific studies that are being done with more and more money. And once they first started working, the money's pouring in. The money is pouring into University of Massachusetts, Mass General, Harvard Medical School, University of Wisconsin in Madison, University of San Francisco, UCSD. The money is pouring in for meditation studies. Because imagine if we could move just a little bit further away from our pharmaceuticals and heal ourselves holistically in these other ways. So the first study, 2012, this was it. This was like the landmark study. That's when the floodgates opened up. 16 test subjects, 56 days, which is 8 weeks. University of Mass General, Sarah Lazar, Dr. Sarah Lazar, ran this study. I hesitate to actually even tell you about this particular study because they were only asked to meditate once a day. And I know how important twice a day is, but I'll reveal it. So in this study, they were asked to meditate for 30 minutes, watching their breath. We just did it. They had MRIs taken of their brains before, during, and after. 56 days. At the end of 56 days, less than 2 months, all 16 test subjects unanimously showed an increase in the gray matter of their hippocampus of more than 5%, all of them. What's a hippocampus? That's where learning, memory, and spatial orientation. It's the part of our brain responsible for that. Imagine that. Learning, memory, spatial orientation, hand-eye coordination, all elevated. That gray matter increased by more than 5%. And all 16 of these test subjects also demonstrated a decrease, a shrinkage in the gray matter of their amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for anger, stress, anxiety, fear. This was 56 days. This was the first landmark study that proved in under 2 months, meditation can change the physical structure of our brain. Prior to that, it was like, well, I feel better, I think. The results of meditation are so profound and yet so subtle. So let's talk about, I believe, one of the greatest stress studies that has ever been done. Probably the most prolific and famous explorer of consciousness in the United States is Dr. Richard J. Davidson. He's at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And a whole bunch of years ago, he did a study in Chicago, an 8-year study. 25,000 people participated. And they were just asked 2 questions. And then their lives were followed based on death records. They were asked, do you think you have a lot of stress? Yes or no. Do you think it's going to kill you? Yes or no. Actually, the question was, do you think it will be harmful to you? And then they just followed these people for 8 years. Followed them based on death records. If they died, they checked them in a box. If they lived, they checked them in another box. Those people who said, and this is to prove that stress is in the eye of the beholder. The people who said, yes, I have lots of stress and it's very harmful. They had a 43% higher mortality rate. Imagine that. Now we would say, oh, well, who had the lowest mortality rate? The people who said they have a lot of stress, but it's not going to kill me. They have the lowest mortality rate. We would think, oh, it's people who just don't perceive stress. No. People who don't perceive stress are in denial, or they're just not paying attention. So if you think you have stress, that's not a bad thing. That's like, oh, welcome to planet Earth. It's what you then think it's going to do to you. And people who have a gratitude practice and people who have a yoga practice and people who have a meditation practice seem to be better at saying, you know what? I have stress, but I'm doing stuff to mitigate it and mediate it. It's not going to kill me. Here's another one, 2009. Elizabeth Blackburn, Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn, wins the 2009 Nobel Prize in Medicine for her work on telomeres and telomerase. Like what? So telomeres are those fringes that hang off the end of our chromosomes. What are our chromosomes? Every time a cell dies and replicates to make another cell, that's what chromosomes do. They're like a block print. You know, you like carve out the block print, put it in ink, push it to the next whatever, a piece of fabric or a piece of paper, canvas, and it passes along the entire DNA download. So if those transfers of cells are ideal and perfect and 100%, almost like a photocopy, perfect, then you're going to live a lot longer. And if when the cell dies and replicates, passing itself on to the next cell, if it doesn't really transmit everything, and we've all seen block prints where like, oh, I didn't push hard enough on that, you know, or the ink didn't cover that thing, then the transmission is not perfect. Not a good thing. It means cells are being born without the full-on replication aspect from the previous cell. Make sense? So she was doing all this work on telomeres, which are the fringes that hang off of the chromosomes. And she found that when the telomeres, the fringes, were long and lubricated, the transmission was perfect. Every replicating cell was perfectly superimposed onto the next one. And she said, based on that, people who had that perfect replication going on, you can look at this in a drop of blood in an electron microscope, which if any of you have that an electron microscope hanging around your house, you can just prick your finger and look at your telomeres inside there. But she said, it's a great indicator of the next 6 months of your health. However, if your telomeres were not long and lubricated, but short and dry and craggy, not looking good. They could look at your drop of blood and say, you know what, next 6 months, you need to do something now. You need to pick it up because it looks like you're not gonna make it even 6 months. Imagine all this from a drop of blood. Looking at telomeres, whether they're long and lubricated or short and dry and craggy. So of course, instantly, pharmaceutical companies swept in and were like, we want this thing, it's the fountain of youth, you know, because the coding on the telomeres called telomerase. So the pharmaceutical companies figured, if I can just get that telomerase, get vials of it, I could sell them for billions of dollars. So enlightened of them. And so she said, you know what? I don't even know where in the body it's created. Maybe she was lying to them because she didn't want them to, you know, steal the Holy Grail. So then they asked further, pried a little further. All right, well, at least just tell us how it's created in the body. And she said, honestly, I don't know, but I believe it's created. These are her words, not mine. I believe it's created when we introduce a pattern interrupt into our default mechanism. What's our default mechanism? Activity. What's a pattern interrupt? We just did it for 16 seconds. Breaking the action. They pried further, like, okay, so tell us, how do we introduce pattern interrupts into our default mechanism? And she replied, the only way I know is mindfulness. Mic drop. Poof. Of course, no one's paying attention to this. It happened 11 years ago. But meanwhile, we know, we have the ability, we've just done it a couple of times, to introduce pattern interrupts into our default mechanism, activity, activity, activity. Every single moment in our life is a moment of activity. Even when you're sleeping, in deep sleep, activity. Even when you're dreaming, activity. Eating, activity. Watching TV, activity. Running, biking, walking, feeding the dog, laying down, whatever, activity. What's the only non-activity? What's the pattern interrupt into that default mechanism? Meditation. Just taking a breath. So intense. So powerful, right? Kooky. Great stuff. So let's answer a couple of questions here. Because I know. It's like, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Okay, a few of you are asking about, like, so what's the practice look like? All right, so here's the deal. If you just meditate once in a while, nothing's really building up. It's sort of like if you just brushed your teeth on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and probably wouldn't have the best oral hygiene, teeth health, gum health. And if you brush your teeth vigorously for 3 hours, the night before you went to the dentist and you hadn't brushed in like a few months, which probably a bunch of people over the last year have sort of let hygiene slip. They figure, well, I'm not going to see anyone for the next 4 months. What's it matter? It matters, okay? So, but if we brush our teeth vigorously the night before, it doesn't undo, you know, all the damage that we might have done. We've got to figure out, how do I do this thing more consistently? And there's so many different types. There's mantra, and there's tantra, and there's breath, and there's mindfulness, and there's vipassana, and there's all these different schools. I've explored and studied many, many different schools. I've been a devotee and an advocate of many, many different schools. I've been certified in transcendental meditation, certified in primordial sound meditation. I've launched my own teacher training. I teach nakshatra mantra meditation. There's just so many different techniques, and everyone's got to like find the one that sort of like connects and resonates. You've got to find your thing. What's the thing that I can do, the practice that I can do that will allow me to show up every single day? So let me share with you one final study to help you realize why starting your day in stillness and silence is so important. You ever hear of Sean Achor? It's like the happiness guru. You know, like before happiness, after happiness, between happiness. It's like his book titles are like Planet of the Apes. You know, they had like Beneath the Planet of the Apes, After the Planet of the Apes, Above the Planet of the Apes. So he's got like all that stuff about happiness. He is probably the most prolific and famous happiness guru on the planet, except his wife, Michelle Geelan, who's also happiness guru. She was an El Paso, Texas anchor woman, newscaster, who wrote this amazing book that I would recommend to you, Broadcasting Happiness. And she did a study exposing people to the news for the first thing in their morning. So she showed them, people got exposed to, we would call them non-nourishing imagery, TV, newspapers, violent images, in the first 30 minutes of their day. 12 hours later, when they were asked, so how was your day? Even if they fell in love, got a new car, and got a new job, 12 hours later, they would say, it was a crappy day. Then she exposed them to positive imagery, time in nature, loving conversations, watching puppy videos, and meditation. Then ask them 12 hours later, so how was your day? Even if they had crashed their car, gotten dumped in the relationship, and gotten fired, they were 20% more likely to say, you know what? It was a pretty good day. So, like, how crazy is that? We pretty much determine how we assess our day based on what happened in the first half hour upon opening our eyes. Maybe there's an imprint there. Maybe that sets the stage. Maybe that's a fractal. Maybe that's the trajectory that we do. Maybe actually meditating and connecting to stillness and silence creates just a little bit of space that follows us around for the course of the day. And we're just more receptive to the magnificence of life that unfolds before us. But that just blew my mind, that study. 40% more likely to say, crappy day if you're exposed to non-nourishing, 20% more likely to say, pretty good day if you're exposed to nourishing. It doesn't even matter what happens during the 12 hours. It only matters what happens in the first 30 minutes. You want to have a great day? Have a great first 30 minutes. I can't guarantee that I can watch puppy videos every single day. I might go, I saw that video already. How many times can I watch puppy videos? But I can make sure that I can sit with my eyes closed and use a meditation technique every single morning. I'm really, really positive that I could launch a gratitude practice every single morning. Now, there's a reason that I wanted us to start this whole process with a gratitude practice, because not enough is said about gratitude. University of California, Berkeley, UC Berkeley, they have a school of gratitude. Gratitude improves general well-being. Gratitude increases our resilience. I hesitate to even tell you this because you may say, oh, I was doing all that stuff. I was meditating for all those results. Imagine that 1-2 punch of gratitude and stillness. Gratitude strengthens our social relationships, which we could all use a little bit of. Gratitude reduces stress and depression. There is a correlation between gratitude and overall well-being and life satisfaction. It builds a stronger immune system. It lowers your blood pressure. It gives you better sleep. It allows you to be more alert. And people who have a gratitude practice are more generous. So if you have a really ungenerous person in your life, if you can like trick them into a gratitude practice, everything will shift for them. It helps us better meet our needs. And we have these needs of serenity and connectedness. Remember, love and belongingness, it's connection. Having a gratitude practice, just a daily gratitude practice with you just sitting in the dark, thinking about all the things that you're grateful for. So powerful, so important. The ventral and medial prefrontal cortex gets activated when we spend time in gratitude. We only spent a minute in gratitude. Imagine, we activated our medial and ventral prefrontal cortexes. That's the part of our brain responsible for feelings of reward, morality, bonding, emotional intelligence. That's just like sitting a minute, being thankful for your dog, and thankful for food, thankful for your privilege, thankful for whatever it is. This creates more positive social actions. Pretty amazing, right? So that's what I like to sort of like ritualize the morning practice. Because if we can ritualize it, so the technique that I've shared for many, many years is RPM. It's in my first book, Secrets of Meditation. Rise, P, meditate. And a lot of people go, no, I got to do my coffee first, and I got to feed Fluffy and walk Mr. Doodah. Just like, no, rise, P, meditate. Then feed the world and walk the world. That's okay. But again, it's the first 30 minutes. You know, so for the first 30 minutes, you're cleaning your dog's behind. You know, I mean, it's loving, it's generous. I don't know that it's, you know, elevating us for how we want to move through the day. So lock in that stillness and silence. So if you can start with a little gratitude practice and then set an intention, you know, sort of like typing in an address into your GPS or your Google Maps, and then go into stillness and silence, you're hooked up. You're hooked up. It doesn't matter what happens after that. And people say, well, you know, I've been told it needs to be 30 minutes. Yeah, that's ideal. And that's aspirational. And really, I only require that from people who've gone through the teacher training with me, because I teach more techniques on how to do that. But how about, you know, meditation, right? Tap your snooze button when the alarm goes off, slide your tush up to the headboard, keep your eyes closed, pull your blankie up, meditate for 9 minutes and 59 seconds, watching your breath, doing that whole gratitude intention setting meditation. The meditation timer goes off at, you know, 9 minutes and 59 seconds later. And before you even leave the bed, you've got 10 minutes of gratitude, intention setting, and stillness and silence resting inside you. You don't think that's going to impact you? Do it every single day. What else are you doing? What else do you think you're doing? I've got some. Raise your hand if you use a snooze feature on your alarm or phone. Come on, hands up. Don't be shy. You know the world sort of like mocks you and looks down on you and rolls their eyes. Anyone who uses a snooze. Well, I've got news for you. Snoozers are not losers. You are the winners. You go from like this to that. You're winners because you've got the built-in thing. The rest of us have to like figure out, oh, how do I RPM? But snoozers, all you got to do is just like fling your hand over there and tap it. Now, here's an important scientific component for you. You think you're getting 10 minutes more of sleep. You think that you're getting 10 minutes of like melatonin, serotonin coming into your body. It's fake sleep. No. Once the sun has risen, your pineal gland, which sits right behind your third eye, somewhere in there, actually says, hey, the sun is up. Let's stop melatonin. Let's stop serotonin. Let's start infusing cortisol into the body to wake up. So if you think, oh, I've just tapped my snooze and I'm going to get 10 more minutes of that sweet melatonin, fake sleep. No, it's 10 minutes. Honestly, it's 10 minutes of cortisol. So you're not even getting what you think you're getting. And there's been scientific studies that show that meditation is more restorative than fake sleep. So we have an opportunity to say, like, let me take those 10 minutes, which I thought I was getting the extra sleep, and meditate. Let me just use those 10 minutes. A little gratitude, little intention setting, little stillness and silence. I haven't even peed yet. I haven't even left the bed. Now, for those of us who don't have, an iPhone or a phone sitting on the nightstand, we have to rise, pee, and then meditate. You sort of have to figure it out, but we need to ritualize it because, as I said, willpower alone is not going to get us there. So really, let's start small. Let's start with the whole 10-minute experience. If you want longer than that, do it. Why do people stop meditating? Because they started too much too fast. When I started teaching those Marines in Camp Pendleton, and I figured, oh, these guys are never going to meditate. So they said to me, after that 16-second meditation, they said, would you come back tomorrow? I was like, really? It's 19 miles away. It took me a half hour to get through security and to teach you 16 seconds. They're like, yeah, could you? Like, okay, I'll do it. Then could you come back the next day and the next day? So I did that, for a week. And then they said, could you come back next week? And I was like, no, it's 16-second meditation. They said, we'll add a minute. I was like, oh, you'll add a minute? Okay, you can do that. So we added a minute for the week. It was 1 minute and 16 seconds. They said, could you come back the next week? I was like, all right. 2 minutes, 16 seconds. The next week, 3 minutes, 16 seconds. We did it. And I wasn't there for 15 through 19. Ultimately, though, at the 25-week mark, these guys are meditating for 25 minutes and 16 seconds. And they still do today because they started small. They started incrementally. They made room for it in their life minute by minute, as opposed to saying, do this for 25 minutes. So that first meditation of the day, we need to ritualize it. We need to structure it. We need to not reach too high. We need to just lock it in. It's about consistency, not duration. Second meditation of the day. Why would we do that? I already did it to start my day. It's a different function. Second meditation of the day isn't about gratitude or setting your trajectory or planting seeds so stillness and silence can follow you around. Second meditation of the day, somewhere between 2 and 6, is because you absorbed a lot of stuff over the course of that day. Remember, we talked about how many times were your needs not met? So let's say you wake up at 6 and 7 or 8. By 2, 3, 4 o'clock, you've absorbed a whole bunch of energy. You've had conversations, you've had interactions. Some of them are amazing. Some of them are so nourishing. But realistically, between us, it's probably some that weren't so amazing and so nourishing. Anybody here holding on to anything that happened last week? Exactly. So even if we've been meditating every day, we've been setting our course, and then the whole day happens. And then suddenly we're like bringing all this energy that's perhaps not nourishing. Maybe we're holding grudges. Maybe we're plotting someone's murder. Maybe there's a grievance going on here. Maybe we're so irritated, it's burning inside of us. Maybe we're resentful. Maybe we want revenge. Maybe we're this. And we've only been doing that for what? Decades? Now would be the time. March 28th would be the moment for you to say, let me release some of that. Let me just let go just of a little bit of that. Because how many of us at the end of the day sit back and go, what did I learn about myself today? What did I learn about life today? Let me make better choices based on all this analysis that I'm doing at the end of the day. No one's doing that ever. We wake up, we burn through the day, we pass out. We wake up, we burn through the day, we pass out. We wake up, we burn through the day, we pass out. One day we die. So imagine if we could like introduce these powerful ways for us to have more kindness to ourselves, more love for other people, more acceptance, more self-care, more nourishing. Isn't that the life we want to live? Isn't that really what we want to be doing? So that second meditation of the day isn't a trajectory setter or a gratitude. It's a shower. It's a shaking off of all that icky stuff that you've absorbed. It's letting go and releasing. Because we all know what we've all been doing. Whatever happens during the course of the day, typically we come home, we sit down at the table. There's people there who are like, so how was your day? And we just regurgitate all the negative stuff on them. Well, you wouldn't believe what happened at 10 o'clock this morning. And then this happened. And then could you believe this? But we've only been doing that for however long there's been people at our dinner table. And we were trained because probably our parents were doing it to us when we were growing up. It was a tough day. Let me tell you about all the horrible things. Imagine if we could leave that outside before we bring it into our dinner, our post-dinner, our pre-bedtime, our bedtime, our sleep, and our dreams. Imagine how much lighter we'd be when we wake up the next morning. And I swear to you, I've been doing this so consistently, I'm not really clearing out what happened today. That takes me like just a couple of seconds. I'm clearing out what happened last week, last month. I'm working on the past decade because I'm willing to give myself permission to like not hold on to all that stuff that I've been dragging into every other moment. Again, it's a pattern interrupt. So that second meditation of the day is a processing. It's a letting go. It's a releasing. So Denise says, so what types of meditations between 2 and 6? Examples, please. I love that question. So I've actually, I'm not done yet, but I actually created a course on Insight Timer that I'm launching probably in the next week. And so what would that be? It would be forgiveness meditations. It would be body scans. It would be, here's one of my favorites. We can all practice this because it's only 10:47 here in the sweet spot of the universe. But as we progress further east across the country, it's a little later. Let's just do this. We're going to do it for 1 minute. Take a long, slow, deep breath in and release it. And here's this meditation. As we breathe in, silently we'll say to ourselves, let's. And as we exhale, silently we'll say to ourselves, go. Feel free to close your eyes. I'll watch the time and just watch your breath. Don't breathe any other way. But as you breathe in, silently repeat, let's. And as you exhale, silently repeat, go. Let's begin. And now take a long, slow, deep breath in and release it. And when it feels comfortable, ever so gently open your eyes. That was a minute of let go. When's the last time you did that? Never. Cindy and I agreed that in this year's teacher training, we're going to teach every single person to lead guided meditations, the first of the day and the second of the day. So here are some of my examples. Love, let go, body scans, heart healing, thy will be done, mindful flow, which I talk about in Sacred Powers, my last book. Chakra meditations, Tonglen, energy exchange, breathing in and letting go. Om Tare, Tutare, Tare, Swaha. You know, there's a lot of different types of the Om Moksha Ritam. There are beautiful mantras and there's beautiful practices to, you know, to fully release. So I think it's one of the most important things that we can do. And again, okay, start with a minute. Move yourself up to 5. I love when people say, I don't have 5 minutes of time in the afternoon. Then you need like an hour of like a break. If you honestly don't have a 5-minute break somewhere between 2 and 6, you need to really look at your schedule. Just take a serious look and say, am I like saving the planet every single minute, or could I actually nourish myself? Self-care is like the critical component. We know how important that is. So those are the bookends of the day. And you find the time. A lot of people say, oh, I like to meditate right before I go to bed. Then you sort of like have to come home without releasing that stuff. You've sat down with loved ones without releasing that stuff. So I would say no. I would say just try to listen. I'm all, you know, I'm into dogs. I'm not into dogma. And I'm not into rigidity, but I like structure. And we know that having structure in our lives can create just a greater flow. Not finger wagging structure, but, you know, just an easier flow for us. So let's see, any other questions? Now, as far as experiences in meditation, whatever happens, it's perfect. Whatever happens. I know there's birds here, but when I'm like been really in the zone, I haven't even heard the birds. You probably, when you're in the zone, you're not hearing the birds, but right now, you say, oh yeah, birds. It's just like thoughts. They're there all the time. They're not distractions. They're all part of the process. So whatever happens during the meditation, dogs barking, planes overhead, your stomach gurgling, like all that stuff, it's all part of the meditation. Let's say we're going to meditate every single day, twice a day now. So that's like what? 700 meditations a year. And let's say we're going to do that for at least not 10 years, because that would be like 7,000, 20 years, 14,000 meditations. So we don't compare them. It's like whatever happens, happens. Here's what I know I'm doing. I know I'm creating the antidote to stress. I know I'm nourishing my body. I'm boosting my immune system. I'm regulating all my hormones and chemicals. I'm becoming a little more patient. I'm becoming a little more grateful about being alive and being here. And it's actually crystallizing my purpose. Because as meditators, we don't just want to sit and go like, isn't life amazing? You want to sit and get clear on why we're here and what we're here to do, and then get out there and do it. Even the Bhagavad Gita says, don't be attached to inaction. Do your duty. You just have to figure out, what's my duty? Makes sense. What about a third time? I meditate usually somewhere around noon. I also do something after dinner with that, but I'm a geek. I'm a nerd. So what we know is that if you meditate too close to bed, it'll steal your sleep, and then you won't have that deep and restful sleep. And since I've been wearing this thing, now I know that my REM sleep and my deep sleep are really, really important. And the closer I put my meditation to my bedtime, it sort of like steals that. And then I end up watching like 2 more hours of Netflix. So I think it's really great to be in bed asleep between 10 and 2. Ayurveda says that too. It's between 10 and 2 that we digest all the emotions that we've experienced over the course of the day. So every hour that you creep into that, you're not digesting those emotions. And it's from 2 and 6 that our REM sleep happens, and that our sort of like the creative time of night, our dream state occurs. So we don't want to short circuit the digestion of the emotions and feed undigested experiences into our dreams. Hi, great stuff. Can you tell us a bit more about chakra balancing? Is that important? Maybe. Sometimes it could be important, but you know, if you care, it's important. But we don't have time to go deep. That's a whole nother 2-hour workshop. But we talk a lot about chakras in the Breathe Yoga Meditation Teacher Training. So I wanted to share all this stuff. We've got a lot of techniques. It's 10:55, but I'm going to go a little longer because I want to share final technique with us. But I encourage you to reach out to Cindy. If you're thinking about joining the teacher training and you're like, hey, I want to become an expert in the Bhagavad Gita and chakras and first meditation, the second meditation, and the mechanics and the science, and really lock in my practice, just reach out to her and she'll guide you through this practice. We don't accept everybody, obviously, because we want, everyone to really be locked in. But in 7 weeks, you'll be, a master meditation teacher. And I think that's the reason that I feel so great being aligned with Breathe, because they're so authentic and I want to be a part of that, as well. So the second meditation of the day, one of my faves, is metta. So raise your hand if you've been holding on to a grudge or a grievance at all. Just so you know, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama is holding on to a grudge right now against China. So if you don't, and he is, I call BS on that. So everyone's got some grudge or grievance or resentment against someone, something. There's someone in your awareness that like, it's just really annoy me. All right, anybody? I think that would include everyone. Okay, so thank you, Gardner. That was like gave me the sign. All right, so let's, I believe that when we do a metta meditation, which isn't the traditional metta is a metta prayer, but I believe metta, which means unconditional loving kindness, I believe you can't do this and hold on to a grudge simultaneously. You can't. As the Sufi poet Hafiz said, I'm simply a hole in the flute through which the Christ breath flows. Not Christ, not the breath. I'm not the flute. Actually, I'm only the hole. We're all just holes. The universe is coming into us, goes through this kooky little flesh casing that we're sealed in for the span of a lifetime, and then it goes back out. And so a hole can't hold on to anything. A hole can't hold on to a grudge or a grievance. A hole isn't looking for revenge. Think about it's just a hole. It's just a conduit. It's just a channel. And that's what we are. We're channels of energy, of abundance, and of love. So what's a way for us to amplify that? It's doing a metta meditation. So I tried to do this with Cindy on Instagram, but for some reason there was chainsaws in the background. I think my mic was cutting out. So we'll do it here right now, just so you have a deeper understanding of what that is. So let's, so we're going to breathe unconditional loving kindness. What is that? It's infinite. We're going to breathe it into our heart. What's that? Right now it's a little finite, but we're going to bring the infinite into the finite and then flow it back out so that we really connect to our wholeness, right? To our conduit nature, our natural conduit nature. All right, so comfort is queen. Let's get comfortable. Allow your eyelids to gently float closed. Take a long, slow, deep breath in. Squawking on the truth. And let that go. Even all the chirpers want to bring in metta. They're like, give us metta too. And now take a long, slow, deep breath in of metta, unconditional loving kindness. Feel it come into your heart. Understand what that feels like. Feel free to place your hands on your heart during this practice. And as you exhale, radiate it out to all your loved ones, those near, those far, and those who've left this earth plane. Again, let's do that one more time. Long, slow, deep breath in. Feel that metta. Feel your heart expanding gently, lovingly. And send it out to your loved ones. You're just a conduit of unconditional loving kindness. Feel it come in, feel it go out, and feel it showering your loved ones. Another long, slow, deep breath in. Feel your heart expand. Fill with metta. Feel it crack wide open a little bit and send it out to your friends. Those near, those far, and those who've left this earth plane. Again, long, slow, deep breath in. Feel that metta pour into your heart, widening it, filling it. And as you exhale, send it out to all your friends. Again, long, slow, deep breath in. Feel your heart expand. You've got so much love to give right now. And as you exhale, send it out to all your acquaintances, all those people you interact with whose names you don't even know. Whether that's the UPS or FedEx person, whether that's person at the restaurant or the supermarket, all the people behind the scenes that we don't even know about. Let's send them metta. Again, long, slow, deep breath in. Feel your heart expand. And as you exhale, just radiate that unconditional loving kindness to all your acquaintances. You're just a hole in the flutes. You've got so much love to give. Your heart is overflowing with love. Again, long, slow, deep breath in of that infinite love. You've got so much to share. And as you exhale, send it out to one person with whom you have a grievance right now. This isn't about forgiveness. This is about you being a conduit, a hole in the flute, a channel of love. Again, long, slow, deep breath in. Feel your heart expand. And as you exhale, send it out to that one person with whom you have a grievance. Again, long, slow, deep breath in. You're just a hole in the flute. You're just a love machine at this point. Feel your heart expand, and as you exhale, send it out to all sentient beings on the planet. Every animal, every bird, every fish, every human, every blade of grass, to the ocean, to the earth we walk upon. You're just a conduit of abundance, a channel of love. Again, long, slow, deep breath in. Feel your heart expand. Come on, love machine. Let's just do this. Fill your heart up and send it out to every sentient being on the planet. One more time. Long, slow, deep breath in. And as you exhale, let's send it to everyone who's right here, right now. There's over 100 of us here, right now. You breathe it in, your heart expands, you send it out once to all of us, and it comes back 100-fold. That's the multiplying power of love. And just feel it right now. Feel it showering you from 100 of your closest meditating friends right now. Again, long, slow, deep breath in. Feel your heart expand. Even the birds here want to get involved in this and just send it out to all of us. The birds are feeling you showering me. And you're feeling 100 of your closest meditating friends just sending you unconditional loving kindness. When's the last time you got that from over 100 people? Just stay in the space and allow it. Receive it. And now take a long, slow, deep breath in. Your heart is so wide, wider than it's ever been. And as you exhale, just wrap the entire planet in a bubble of love. That's you. You breathe it in, your heart becomes infinite. And now long, slow, deep breath in. Breathe that metta in from every nook and cranny of the cosmos, coming from infinity. Feel your heart expand with that infinity. And as you exhale, send it back out into every corner of the galaxy. You're just a conduit of love. And now connect the thread from your heart to someone else's heart who's suffering, struggling, or in pain. You take your next long, slow, deep breath in of healing light. Feel it come into your heart. And as you exhale, send that healing light on that thread from your heart to theirs. Just to some person, one person in your life who's suffering, struggling, or in pain. And now take one long, slow, deep breath in of metta. Feel yourself connected to all unconditional loving kindness. Feel it surge into you. And as you exhale, ripple it through every cell of your body in gratitude. And just feel every single cell become awakened with gratitude. And now invite a blessing into your awareness. Any blessing that you feel is appropriate to confer upon yourself or someone in your life or some group. Now take a long, slow, deep breath in. And let that go. Let's do that one more time. Long, slow, deep breath in. And gently release it. And let's seal our time together. Let's seal the intention we planted. Let's seal the gratitude that we invited into ourselves. All these techniques in the awakening of something sparking inside of us to dive deeper into our meditation practice. Let's celebrate the power of this collective by chanting Om together. Just one time. Take a long, slow, deep breath in. And when it feels comfortable, you can slowly open your eyes. You can look around at those you shared this collective consciousness with. Namaste. So you've all been infused with some meditation best practices. Who knows what you'll remember? maybe like a week from now, you'll suddenly go, oh yeah, that 16 seconds thing. So just allow these things, they're all embedded and they'll come out when you need them. But if I could just encourage you to just today, let's not count it already. Let's do some kind of afternoon, maybe just let go, maybe, body scan, maybe anything else, just to release anything you've absorbed over the course of the day that's not nourishing. And then when you wake up tomorrow, maybe you meditate, maybe you RPM, hopefully one of those two things. And for those of you who've messaged me and who've reached out because you want to take it to the next level through the Breathe Yoga Meditation Teacher Training, I'm info@davidji.com. And Cindy, are you Cindy at breatheyoga.com?
Yeah, Cindy, Cyndi at Breathe Yoga, or info at Breathe Yoga. You'll get me either way.
Yeah. So if you're thinking, hey, you know what? I think I'd like to really lean hard into this and elevate my life. Remember, I never thought I would share this with anyone. I didn't want to. I just wanted to be in my bliss. Didn't want to be disturbed by other people. And here I am now, going on 20 years of sharing these teachings with other people. So you never know. You don't have to be a formal meditation teacher to dive into this. You could just be someone who wants to take their life to the next level. Maybe you already do something brilliantly and you want to infuse meditation into that thing. And I believe the path to that is truly being a teacher. Sort of like, I'm not a chef. I'm a dabbler in my kitchen and in my juice bar and in my home type of thing. I'm a dabbler. If I ever really was going to take it seriously, though, I would take, chef training. But since that's not going to happen, I'm happy to share my expertise in meditation with you. So let's stay connected. Let's keep meditating. On Instagram, I'm davidji meditation, and you can visit me at davidji.com, and you can visit Cindy at breatheyoga.com. So hopefully we see you in the next few weeks. You have 3 weeks to sit around and go, do I want to become a teacher? Do I want to become a teacher? Well, don't sit around and do that. Reach out to one of us and ask. Say, here's what I'm thinking about. What do you think? And we'll help you make whatever is the right decision. I believe that every powerful decision that we make is a divine convergence of message, messenger, and timing. And if one of those three is off, it doesn't happen. So hopefully we know you love the message. If I can be your messenger on this, and if the timing is right, we call that kismet. So, but if not, we get it. I get it. Namaste. I honor the divine light in you that's also in me. And when you're in that space and I'm in that space, we are one. Hopefully you have a whole bunch of techniques to help take your life to the next level. And again, gratitude for you for taking this time on Sunday. You could be doing playing Frisbee or something like that outside. But you chose to hang out here and take your life to the next level. And so I'm so grateful.
Davidji, thank you for your generosity. I mean, you share, you just put it all out there, and I appreciate you so much. I have so much gratitude. So